Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're mapping out a sudden, frankly unthinkable collapse of the old rules of global power. We're breaking down a massive, coordinated shift in global logistics that is leaving some of the world's most aggressive players in a state of total desperation. Let's get right into it. Imagine having the world's most powerful blackmail tool in your hands, right? You hold the absolute ultimate trump card. Maybe it's total control over the Strait of Hormuz. Or maybe it's the vast, freezing expanse of the Russian Urals protecting your prized military assets. Now, imagine waking up and realizing your opponent just bypassed those strongholds entirely. Suddenly, your leverage is just absolute trash. And you know what? That is exactly what's happening right now. From the deserts of Saudi Arabia to the frozen airfields of the Urals, the old rules of warfare and trade are literally being burned to the ground. It's all thanks to this brand new alliance of advanced technology and a little concept known as road diplomacy. We're witnessing the unthinkable collapse of regional dominances that took decades to build. So what exactly is road diplomacy? Well, it's the strategic use of trade and transit corridors to exert geopolitical leverage. And right now, a massive logistical revolution in the Middle East is completely neutralizing Iran's biggest threat using exactly this playbook. And honestly, Pakistan is writing the textbook on it. The game changed permanently on May 6, 2026. Pakistan, which remember is the region's only nuclear power, stepped up to the table and drew a thick, bold red line that Tehran simply cannot cross. Pakistan's foreign minister, Ishaq Dar, made it crystal clear the security of Saudi Arabia is an absolute, non-negotiable, no-go area. So Islamabad has effectively dropped a mini NATO shield right over the Gulf's oil fields. To put this in perspective, 400 kilometers. That is how close the strategic King Abdul Aziz Air Base in Dhahran is to the Iranian coast. And with 13,000 elite Pakistani troops and nuclear-capable JF-17 jets parked right there, any missile fired at Riyadh is now effectively a missile fired at Islamabad. It creates this unbreakable nuclear umbrella over the kingdom. But hey, while Pakistan provides the shield, Turkey is providing the sword. For years, the Gulf had to fire multi-million-dollar Patriot missiles just to shoot down cheap couple $1,000 drone swarms. It was an absolute economic nightmare. But now, Turkey has stepped in. They're supplying cutting-edge directed energy laser weapons like the Kalp, along with AI-supported Korkut anti-drone systems. These things are literally vaporizing drone swarms into expensive piles of dust for basically pennies. And it doesn't stop there. Turkey has also engineered the ultimate bypass. The Ankara government just fast-tracked the $24 billion Iraq Development Road Project. This is a massive 1,200-kilometer railway and highway system starting in Basra that carries Gulf oil directly to Europe. This is a huge deal because it permanently strips Iran of its absolute favorite blackmail tool, closing the Strait of Hormuz. Why? Because the world's energy now has a massive, high-speed, secure alternative. All right, let's pivot to part one of our breakdown, the death of distance, focusing on the Urals and Crimea. So while the Middle East undergoes this logistical revolution, a very similar collapse is happening deep inside Russia. On the night of April 25th, Ukraine's autonomous drone army proved that distance is completely dead. The Russian military had moved its most prized aircraft to the Shogol Air Base, tucked away in the Ural Mountains. They figured being a staggering 1,700 kilometers behind the front lines would keep them safe. But Ukrainian smart drones, operating autonomously without even needing satellite links, navigated straight into that so-called safe haven. And they hit the Kremlin's absolute pride and joy, the Su-57 Felon stealth fighter. These are fifth-generation crown jewels that cost over $100 million a pop. And thanks to current sanctions, they're almost impossible to replace. Ukraine systematically damaged these jets using highly advanced, incredibly low-cost kamikaze drones. Targeting $100 million assets with tech that costs a fraction of the price, that is brutal strategic asymmetry. Ukraine is applying this exact checkmate flawlessly across the board to relentlessly choke Russia's sprawling logistics. They've put the M14 highway, which is the vital land bridge to Crimea, under drone fire control. They hit the Shogol Air Base to degrade the stealth fleet, and they struck the Zhenkoi railway junction, the literal heart of Crimea's supply chain. By systematically severing these logistical backbones, they're making the Crimean Peninsula militarily untenable to hold. Which brings us to part two, the final blow, calling the bluff in Hormuz. Let's head back to the Gulf to see what happens when an old world power tests this new reality. On May 7th, the U.S. Navy decided to finally call Iran's bluff in the Strait of Hormuz, after Iranian forces made the pretty historic mistake of attacking three transiting U.S. destroyers, the Truxtun, the Peralta, and the Mason. The American response was absolute and brutal. U.S. precision strikes didn't just repel the attack, they literally erased the Revolutionary Guard's coastal command centers in Bandar Abbas, and they used precision-guided bombs to permanently seal the underground missile cities on Qishm Island. And the diplomatic hammer quickly followed. Looking at the geopolitical chessboard neutrally, the Trump administration delivered a one-page surrender memorandum via Pakistani mediators. It was a strict 24-hour ultimatum: choose between an unconditional halt to nuclear and proxy programs or face total military erasure. It was a cold, calculated move that fully leveraged Tehran's sudden crushing logistical powerlessness. So what does this all mean for us? We're witnessing a global checkmate, where logistics, bypass routes, and smart tech are actually winning the day over brute force. The big question now is, will these cornered powers accept this logistical checkmate and bow to the final warnings, or will they just watch their entire asymmetric defense chains disappear forever? Is this the beginning of a stable new era, or are we just seeing the calm before a much, much bigger storm? Let us know what you think in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe to stay informed on these shifting tides, and definitely check out our explainer on Spotify to keep the analysis going during your commute. Thanks for tuning in.